are taking intentional risk because they, one, know their purpose, know what they're passionate about, and are willing to do things that feel risky and that feel scary, genuinely have a deeper level of happiness and meaning in their life. And I think I resonated with that so much because so much of the most like beautiful, like soul enriching, like meaningful moments of my life have been on the other side of something fearful.
Hello friends, it's your friend Lizzy, and today's episode is Holy Ground. Ashley Hess is someone whose music, story, and spirit have moved so many of us. But what I loved most about this conversation is how honest and unpolished it was in the best way possible. We talked about what it really looks like to follow Jesus when fear rises up and when insecurity shows up as a signal. Not that you're off track, but that the adversary is trying to keep you from something God is actually calling you towards. She shared how her biggest hit, entitled Yet, wasn't born in a moment of confidence, but in a moment of deep questioning and turning squarely towards God. And it resonates because we've all been there or will be, asking God if he sees us, if he's near, and if we're still on the right path. We talked about how success leaves clues, especially in discipleship. You can trace patterns all throughout Scripture of who God calls, how he sanctifies us, and how he uses our weakest places to make us strong. And we talked about the kind of a community that can only come from taking off the mask and letting people see the real story underneath. You guys are going to love this one. Ashley Hess, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so fun to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Yeah. So my target demographic of this podcast, which I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast, is actually college-age girls. Whoa. That is who, and now my typical guest is older, partially just because that's more of my network and more of my friendships. I'm 41, right? So I know more women in this same demographic, but I always think about this college-age girl and like, what do I wish I would have known at her age? And what do I wish I would have had the courage to do or to say or to take on in my life? And like, let's speak to that girl. So I love that you're younger than me. And I love that you're closer to that age, very close to that age. Actually, I have no idea.
Close-ish, not really that close. I'm 34.
But definitely this step ahead, right? Where I'm maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
You're the step ahead and you've taken on career and you've taken on scary next steps post that stage, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited that you come on and share your story. And my hope for this episode, we talked for a second off air, is really that when I talk to women on this episode, I talk about finding your voice, reclaiming your voice so you can go make your unique impact. Well, for those of you who don't know Ashley, she actually uses her voice to make impact. She's a musician and an artist. And so I love that we're going to be talking about creation and maybe speaking directly with the thoughts of a voice. But I know there are analogies that are going to come out of that because everybody's on that journey to reclaim their voice and to find their voice and to know what their voice, like the impact their voice can make, right? So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'm not taking the music route, if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you know, it doesn't really matter the thing that someone has chosen. God leaves patterns and success leaves patterns. And so there's templates and there's things that we're going to take away. And I know that those are going to come from this for people listening in. Like, how do I have the courage and how do I dare experiment and what does the road look like and what should I expect from this? So excited to dig in, but just as a profile for those of you listening in, that's what's headed your way, and share this with a college-age girl and make my day too. I'll just start with that.
Make my day too. That's amazing.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I grew up in Fremont, California. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. There's 6 in my family, my parents, my siblings, 2 boys, 2 girls. I grew up in a pretty, our family was very, sports, but also music. Like, my dad has a really beautiful singing voice. My mom is really amazing at piano, but all of us kids played sports, and that was kind of the route that I thought I wanted to go for so long.
What sports?
I played soccer and volleyball.
Okay.
I played basketball a little bit, but, I played soccer from when I was, 5 to 18. And then I started volleyball when I was 12 and I fell in love with it. So I did soccer and volleyball year round in high school, with club and so I thought I wanted to do that in college and that I just had this idea of what my life was going to be like. And I come from a really, my family's really close and really supportive, and my parents are really encouraging of like I remember growing up, they always tried to find a way for us to explore hobbies and different things to figure out what we like to do. And we're just very big on us like developing gifts and talents and interests. And so when I got really into sports, like they were so supportive of that. And then music was always there, but I was like, what am I gonna do with this? Like I didn't have the dream of like being a Taylor Swift or anything like that.
Which is, as an aside, is really funny because I grew up the same. Was like sports is so applicable to life at all time,
Yes.
and then your body gets older, and there's when do I find I played a lot of sports too. I don't go play basketball, but we're like music. When do I use it? I won't have a career, and it's like I don't know. You sing till you die. Actually, like
My
way more
yes,
applicable.
my thought process in that was like, oh, well, I can go pro, but I'm like, then when I switch from soccer to volleyball, it's like, okay, I'm either going to play in the Olympics, which is like I have 0.001% chance of happening, or like there's not really like pro unless you play beach volleyball, like kind of like
Yeah,
college, but yeah, just like my thought process was so
kind of like all of
hilarious.
ours.
Yeah. But then I thought, okay, well, I will go to school, I'll get a really good job, and then get married and have kids. And like, just kind of thought that that would be the trajectory of my life. But I also wasn't the type that was like, I have to get married, have to have kids right away. Like, I just was interested in all aspects of life. But I just remember when I graduated high school and I moved to Utah for school because I thought I wanted to be a dental hygienist. So I moved to Utah to go to get into the dental hygiene program at UVU. It was like one of the best in the country. I was like, perfect. I have family here. This is great. And then as I started that, I was like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I always just I just kept coming back to music, and I think I had such a foundation of that throughout my childhood. And just that's always something I was so drawn to, but I never conceptualized the idea of actually being able to pursue that as a career or anything above just a hobby. And I kind of started putting like YouTube videos out here and there, like taught myself piano again. And then like that started doing well. But it wasn't until I started songwriting that I was like, this is actually really what I love to do. And so that, yeah, my journey of life and just who I thought I was, who I thought I would be, what I thought my life would look like has evolved and changed and still does. But yeah, I'm just really grateful that I come from a family that is so supportive of me taking crazy risks and just like pivoting at any moment, you know? And so that's kind of, yeah, a little backstory about me.
What was it like posting that first video on YouTube? Was it
Oh,
just like
terrifying. Terrifying. Because I wouldn't even sing for my family a lot of the time. Like I would sing if it was like in a group setting, like me and my dad and my sister would sing in church sometimes, or like I sang in choirs and stuff. But like I remember in high school, I was in leadership, and our like leadership council teacher found out that I sang. And so she told me the night before, because she's like, I know you can sing and I know that you haven't really done it a ton, but like I want to push you. You're going to sing the national anthem at the school assembly tomorrow. And I was like, this is high school, mind you. So I'm like just imagining that like I'm going to mess it up or something, and like I'm going to be the laughing stock of the high school. But I did that and actually had a good experience, although I was terrified. And that just like little things like that slowly helped me build confidence. But yeah, it was something that I always kept coming back to. And so I was like, well, I have to put myself out there. And I just had to, it was one of those things that it's like, okay, I'm going to be afraid if I don't post it or if I do post it. So I would rather just have the fear and post it and see what happens. So,
I love it.
yep.
That's actually a great rule for life. I'm going to
Yeah.
have the fear either way.
Yeah.
And then the curiosity, like, but if I try it with the fear, what might come? I won't
Yes.
know unless I do it.
That my friend picked me up from the airport the other night, and we were just talking about how I was in New York, and she was like, how was it? I was like, it was so good. And I used to live there, and she's like, that is so wild to me that you just picked up and moved there and you didn't really know anyone out there. Like, you're so fearless. And I was like, I was so grateful that she said that, but I also was like, you think I'm fearless? I'm like, I feel like I have so much fear, and that's something that I struggle with so much. But what I've learned is like, okay, what might appear to be fearless, I just am understanding is courage, because it's like I think we all have fear, and some
Hmm.
people look like, oh, they're just doing everything and they're not afraid. It's like, no, I guarantee that they probably are doing it afraid. Like they're just,
Yep.
although
They're
they
doing it
don't seem
scared.
afraid, they've just learned how to feel the fear, but not let them stop them from what they want to be doing or what they feel like they're supposed to be doing. And so we just had a little conversation about that. I was like, I actually don't know if I believe anybody's actually completely fearless,
Yeah.
but I think courage is a really beautiful thing. And like, to me, courage is like being able to face something and do something even while feeling the fear. And that's something that I have to learn over and over and over again. I feel like I get better and better at, but still it's like the fear is always there in some way.
I think maybe God wants it to be that way. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm just telling myself that so I don't live in fear, but I think it's like lifting weights. At some point you have to pick up the heavier one.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
once you're strong enough to lift that one. And I think God, if we're willing and we're like okay with him giving us things and taking it on, he's like, that one, you can do that now too easy.
Yes.
And I want you to grow because I see so much incredible potential in you.
100%.
So maybe that's just a sign like God actually sees a lot in me.
Yeah.
And I can fear my own capacity, but if he's seeing enough in me, I can trust him and say, okay, if you see it, okay.
And I
I got this.
that
You got this.
1000%. I think that also is such a beautiful way to deepen relationship with God because it requires a deeper level of trust, and it requires just a strength beyond your own and just help beyond your own. Because there's been so many moments where I've had opportunities come up that I'm like, I feel like this is from the Lord, but I do not feel qualified to do this. I do not feel prepared to do this. But I just had to trust and invite him into that fear of like, okay, God, I actually can't do this on my own, but I trust you and I trust that this is from you. So that fear that I have of not being enough, I'm just going to trust that you're going to make up the difference in where I lack because of this opportunity that you've given to me. So
Let's talk about some of those scary things. So there was the first YouTube post.
the first YouTube post, and it's one thing to post a video of like you singing a cover of something, but when you've written something and share it, that is just a different level of vulnerability, at least for me. And so I remember like the first time I wrote a song and like I was so afraid to show it to anyone because I'm like, no, it has to be perfect. But the whole point of like me doing what I want to do is like you have to share what you're creating. And so I remember the first time I wrote a song and shared it with somebody, and I still get afraid sometimes. I'm like, okay, like I just made this demo and I've been doing this for like over 10 years now. And so it's like, it's so funny that fear still comes up. But yeah, that first YouTube video I posted, and then when social media became a thing, like doing that more consistently, and then writing, like sharing that. I remember the first time I actually performed like on a stage and like played and sang and people came. I'm so grateful I was behind a piano because I'm like, my hands were probably shaking. But yeah, there are just so many moments that just like little moments of like that were so scary. But if I hadn't have taken that step, like it would not have led to where I'm at now. And so I can look back now and be so grateful. But I remember those moments like it was yesterday of just that fear of like, oh no, like I don't think I can do this. And then doing it and like, oh no, I actually love this, you know?
I bet at this point you can't imagine your life without that.
No. Yeah.
Like where would you even be that this is who you are now. This is identity stuff for Ashley Hess.
That I was listening to this podcast the other day, this guy, Erwin McManus, who I really love. And he was talking about like traits and qualities of happy people. And he says the happiest people are risk takers. And they're people who are taking risk, like intentional risk. Obviously, not like thrill seekers and like, yes, maybe that too, but like people who are taking intentional risk because they, one, know their purpose, know what they're passionate about, and are willing to do things that feel risky and that feel scary, genuinely have a deeper level of happiness and meaning in their life. And I think I resonated with that so much because so much of the most like beautiful, like soul enriching, like meaningful moments of my life have been on the other side of something fearful, or have been on the other side of like a moment where I was like, I made a decision to do something while being afraid, as opposed to letting the fear keep me from doing it. And so, yeah. And that's something I have to remind myself every single day, because I still have moments where I'll get on stage and I'm like, wait, why am I all of a sudden afraid? I've done this a million times, you know? But
even just today, I ran to grab something in my car before you came in. And I was just like, what am I doing? I'm a podcaster. why do I actually have a podcast? Like, Lord, remind me why
Right.
I'm doing this and what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you do have those little moments in life where you're like, but I've been led every step of the way. But even still now, I can't quite see where this is heading
Mm-hmm.
or what it's all for. I do know I've grown a ton through it. And I know there are some people that it's helped. And it's just, even in the middle of it, it's still a trusting game.
Yeah. And there's moments too where I'm so grateful that I'm at a point in my life where like I have seen the fruit of decisions and persevering over things that I was afraid of. But there are still moments that I'm like, I haven't seen the fruit of some things, or I'm like, maybe I won't ever. But I think one thing that I am realizing is that there's always growth. It might not be fun or it might not
Mhm.
feel amazing, but there always is a layer of like whether it didn't impact anybody, like there's always something that it's teaching me or that I'm growing from just expanding my comfort zone and stretching outside of what I feel like I'm capable of. And that to me, I'm like becoming more and more passionate about that. And not even just music, but about like, okay, I'm afraid of this. I kind of want to run towards that. Why am I afraid of it? You know what I mean? And I'm like, sometimes I feel like a crazy person. I'm like, why am I running towards fear? But then there are some things that I'm like, nope, I'm afraid of that. I'm going to run in the other direction. But it's just, it's been a really interesting way to almost like personify fear in my life and like talk to it as if it's like my friend. There's a, like one of my favorite songs. It's by John Mayer, and he says, "Fear is a friend who's misunderstood." And I'm like, whoa, if I looked at fear as like, okay, maybe I know you're trying to keep me safe, but like, let's just talk about this and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this and like the what could come from this. And so, yeah, I have had a lot of experience with fear and a lot of time thinking about it, and is like something really specifically that I've um, just had to battle and deal with quite a bit.
Tell us about one of those moments.
Oh man. So, oh my gosh, I'm like, which one do I pick? The first one that came to mind, um, man. So I was on American Idol in 2019, which was so amazing. It was like one of the coolest experiences, also so unexpected. But there was a season after that, because in 2020, the pandemic hit and like so many of my plans had changed. Like I had been in a super serious relationship. I thought we were going to get married. That ended. Like my plans for like touring and music stuff, like all kind of came to a halt because of that. And I had this momentum and like my life seemed like it was like on this trajectory that then it was like I was watching it like implode. And I think the scariest part of that for me was like facing my relationship with God and my beliefs and starting to have questions in ways that I never had before. And that was so terrifying. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I remember just in that time, I hadn't really prayed sincerely because I was afraid to be honest to God about what I was feeling, because I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this to you. Like, I don't know if it's okay that I'm feeling this. I don't, and one, and two, I don't know if it's okay for me to tell you this. But I just had an experience where I just knelt and I just was so honest. And I actually wrote a song in that process called Yet. And that song, like, I didn't think I'd ever put that song out because it was so personal to me, but it completely changed my life and just was a catalyst of so much growth, but also just like so much healing by the way that I saw other people connect to that. And I was like, whoa, other people are struggling with similar things or completely different things, but connect with this. And so um, that was really scary to have to be that vulnerable of like, okay, I was somebody that like, I never had really questioned God or questioned my relationship with God or my faith or anything like that. And so then to question that and then to put it in a song and release the song and have the world have like a front row seat to my wrestle with God and with myself and with life. And then something that came from that was there was this worship collective, Maverick City, that came and was like, we love this song, we want to collaborate. We collaborated, it was amazing. And then they want to bring me on tour. And I was like, how how am I going to get on stage with these people that have been leading worship their whole lives? I've never led worship in that way before. And with a song that I'm like, it just came from like such a broken place where I felt so unworthy that then I feel like God was like, hey, I'm going to show you like how worthy you are, how much I love you, and like give you these opportunities to share your voice, share your story, even though you're like, I know you're battling with this fear of like imposter syndrome and all these things, but I just felt like that was an opportunity and an experience from the Lord. But I was terrified because that song changed my life, but it came from like one of the ugliest, darkest, scariest times of my life. And I didn't want to like relive that constantly by like, because when I sing that song, like so often I like can feel what I was feeling when I was writing it and like going back to that place. But what was so beautiful about that experience and so healing was I felt like I got to share a part of my story in that song, but like also experience healing through that. Even though I was like, one, I feel like an imposter, I don't belong on the stage. Two, I'm sharing a song that like feels like I'm standing naked in front of this crowd. Like it just was so vulnerable. And three, just like also, oh man, like not feeling completely past some of that, the stage of me writing that song. Like I felt like my relationship with God was in such a better place, but my relationship with myself was like, I was still struggling. And so I'm like, God, how can I say yes to this opportunity and stand and lead these people in worship when I'm still struggling with these things? But that was like one of the most healing and impactful experiences that I've had in regards to my purpose and my voice specifically as a singer and a songwriter. And it just like really planted deeper roots into what I feel like my purpose is, and what the purpose of my gifts are and how I want to use them for the Lord and not for me or not for the the world to see me or anything like that. Like such a pivotal it was such a pivotal moment for me, but there were so many moments leading up to that fear was just like, you can't do this. You're not enough. You don't belong there. And so, yeah, that, I guess there was like probably 10 points of fear throughout that whole story, but I think just leading up to that moment that shifted everything for me was pretty wild.
Can you share some of the lyrics from that song with us?
Yeah.
You know I know it because I love this song so much. You've
Oh
seen me at least
man.
in in at least one setting, probably more, where I'm just like, prayer hands, just like, it's
So
so impactful.
that will never, people are like, I know people probably tell you this all the time. I'm like, that will never get old to me. Like people being impacted by that is such a gift that's really sacred to me. So thank you for saying that. So the first line of the song is, God, don't give up on me yet. I know I'm not your best bet, but I'm trying. So don't give up on me yet. And the chorus is, I know I've come so far, but got so far to go with these brand new scars and this broken heart. Why am I gonna cry? It's hard to really know if there's a reason and if I'll ever see it, but I want to believe it. So don't give up on me yet. I think I'm crying because when I wrote that song, it felt so personal for me in that moment, but it also felt like God was giving me the words that I was afraid to say. So it felt like a co-writing session with the Lord, which was the coolest thing in the entire world. But what has been really beautiful to me is that I think there are some verses in that song that the Lord knew I would need for future versions of myself and different seasons of my life. And the last verse in that song says, God, I know I'm not the same, but you knew that I would change. And I think that you're trying to tell me that it's okay. And I think for so long in my life, I was afraid of change in that way, or I thought that if certain things changed, that, oh, like, especially within faith and within my relationship with God, that it would invalidate either the past or it would invalidate my current relationship with God if things ever look different, and with myself, or if I made changes in my life. Like, I just was so afraid of that. And I think, especially the past 5 years, like, it just has been a journey of constant change and evolution and growth. And, but also in such like a way that feels so much deeper and so much more rooted. But it's hard. Like if you're going deeper into something, you're being rooted in something, that means you're like in the darkness and being planted, and it's like a hard process. And so that song continues to be a gift and a blessing to me, not only just because of I'm so humbled and grateful for how many people resonate with it and how many people have even heard it, and how the Lord has just moved through that song, but also the way that the Lord continues to move through it through me, and how I'm seeing like more evidence of his intentional and personal love for me just in like those moments where I'm like, okay, this song is coming so easily, but it's been so hard for me to talk to the Lord for so long that now I'm seeing, and I'll sing it and a different part will stand out. And I'm just like, Lord, thank you for knowing me better than I know myself and knowing what I needed better than I knew for myself. And that song for me is just a really sacred reminder of that.
I don't think we're going to leave this moment yet, but before, so I haven't shared this on air. Last season, loved my podcast. It was such a gift to me. And in between seasons, I just like kind of like was like, okay, God, what can I change? What can I tweak? How can I take this to the places you want it to go? And like the most direct thought I had was like, pray over your guests before you start. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I love prayer. I talk about God all the time. Like, that's fine. But I also hope that nobody thinks I'm like trying to manipulate them by like praying. I don't know. I just was like, it was a
when
fear
you prayed,
thing.
it was like the most, I was crying before we started. So that was amazing. So thank you.
Yeah. But what was interesting was like, okay, the fear came. Typically that's like a little signal that this is a good thing. If I'm feeling a little afraid to pray, then okay, it probably actually matters even more. Right. But what I've noticed, I probably have, I probably filmed 10 episodes so far, maybe 15. I've like been packing them in right now. And I've been given the words to say every time that are like, every prayer is totally different where I'm like, say this phrase. And even in one episode, it was like, that became the theme of the whole episode. And it was like, I've never even thought of that phrase. Like, where did that phrase even come from? And then what was so beautiful today is then you even said it before I did. Can I pray for you? And I was like, wait, this is my thing. How did you know this is my thing this season? And so then you asked, you could have been like, oh, you're praying great. But it was like, well, I want to pray for you now. I want to pray over you before we start, right? And some of the things you said were exactly things I needed to hear. I bring all this up because it's so interesting that you had this prayer that you were afraid to say, and God gave you the words to, one, say, it's okay if you're questioning.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to give you the right words to even question so they're more fruitful and beautiful, right?
Whoa.
And then also that like you saying that and you praying that and allowing the vulnerability and sharing that moment, let other people in, but also that it was a prayer that was even longer and like it was revelation for future you, right? And because I've been experiencing this in a different way before every episode where it's like, oh my goodness, these are opportunities for me to actually like invite God into this person's life, which I've prayed my whole life. I like actually love prayer and loved it before, but a lot of my guests, I don't know. It's one thing to pray over my daughter or pray for my husband or pray for my sister who I know what's going on in their life. And so I'm calling power down to help them. I don't know what you're going through. I like love you from afar.
Right.
And I love you even more now that we were having this conversation. Like, okay, God, I get why you wanted Ashley on. Oh my gosh, this girl. But like starting with prayer is just like, what if part of that fear is saying the words of a prayer you don't even know if you can say, or you don't even know what you're even feeling? That prayer is an act of faith to hear his voice when you're talking, and that's what that song is to so many others. Like, this is my best, God.
Yeah.
This is the best I have. I actually just recorded I'm doing Sunday sermons this season.
Love.
Where just like a 10 to 15, I'm trying to keep them under 15 minutes Sunday message. And I just share something that's just like directly about God. Cause obviously these are conversations about life and so many other things. And I wrote like a prayer for a broken offering today and read that. I don't know when this one I think will come out in 2 weeks. But it was really that, like, God wants a broken heart and a contrite spirit. Jesus comes, fulfills the law of Moses, and he says, I don't want animals anymore. I don't want blood anymore. Thank heavens. Wouldn't have liked that time.
Right. Same.
Couldn't handle that.
No.
But he's like, I want your broken heart. That's the thing. That's the only thing I need to do my work and to change you into the person you need to be. But then I think the thing we run around fighting our whole lives is like, I don't want to look broken. I don't want to look broken. Don't make me look broken.
Just constantly on damage control. And I'm like, why? I think that is one of the biggest lessons. And I think it's something that I'll learn for the rest of my life. But I had this image of God for so long that it was like, I need to be the best best version of myself, or at least get myself together enough to present this like perfect, as perfect as I can be, Ashley, to the Lord and like everything. And I think another thing that I love so much about Yet in that song and that experience, and just not just what it did for my career, but like what that did for me personally and what that did for my relationship with God, is it blew him out of this box that I had had, and it blew myself out of this box that I was like, wait, this moment where I feel so unworthy and so broken and so ashamed and embarrassed and afraid is the moment that you met me. And I felt like a love that I can't even explain in like a moment like that, when you feel so far from it or unworthy of it and you feel it in that way, like it changes you. And it changed my relationship of like, oh my gosh, like God really wants every single part of us. And like the parts that I was so afraid, he's like, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like the part that you're hiding from me, he's like, ma'am, I really love you. And why are you praying this prayer when I've seen what's been going on? This is what you're praying. Like, let me give you the words to say. So, because I want this deep relationship with you, like, I know you want it too. Like, let me lead you, let me guide you, and let me help you. And I think one of the first things for me in really coming into deeper intimacy with the Lord and having a deeper relationship was coming out of hiding. Like, there was so much that I was hiding from myself, hiding from him, or that I was like, oh no, that's too broken. I'm going to shove it away in this corner, like, and just, you know, tie everything else in a pretty little bow and hope that the Lord doesn't see this over here. But instead of like trying to sweep it away, of like, Lord, come into this. Like, I can't fix this on my own. I need you. And I'm not perfect at this. There's still moments where I like go back to that of like, oh, I don't want anyone to see this, or I don't want the Lord to know about this. But I think it's so beautiful when we're able to allow ourselves to like be fully seen and be fully loved. Because in that moment for me, like being fully loved was like the healing that I was praying for. It's not like I need you to fix this broken thing. It's like, oh, you loving this part of me is healing that. Like, it's not, I need you to like patch it up. It's just like allowing love into that was like just the start of so much healing for me.
Which when we think about Christianity at its core, it was the moment Jesus was broken. That was actually the thing that changed it.
Yeah.
Was that?
Sheesh.
So why do we hide the things that break us the most? That's actually where we connect the most with him.
Yes.
Where he gave it all for us, where we see ourselves in him, because we like, he actually felt our pains and our sorrows and like felt what it felt like to be imperfect, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't want to show that part. And so we all think everybody else doesn't have that part. And we build this whole narrative on humanity where Christ was like, oh, no, don't miss the whole point, guys.
Right. Right.
That's what I came to show you. And I wrote about it. Or I had my disciples write about it.
Right.
And prophets saw it before and they saw it after. They all saw this moment that matters the most.
Yeah.
Now go connect with each other on the same stuff in your life.
Exactly. That's the biggest piece for me, is like a perfect person is not relatable. It's like so,
Because they're not real.
right.
There's no
Exactly.
such thing.
Exactly. And so I think there has been so much beauty that has come when I allow myself to be truly vulnerable and like expose parts of myself that I'm afraid of. For the most part, I've had most of those experiences have been with people that I love, that show up and love me and like meet that with such love. And when I've done that with the Lord, it's like, why? I feel like I still go through the cycle sometimes, because just the patterns of fear that run in my brain sometimes. But God is so patient to remind me of like, hey, I'm here and I love you. I'm not going anywhere. These parts of you that you think I don't love, I love so much and I'm aware of. Like, you don't need to hide that. And I think something else that you said about just, oh, sharing the broken parts of ourselves, that is also where I felt so deeply connected to other people. Like, yes, music, some of my favorite songs, I'm like, people have been so honest in that I'm like, I feel it to my core. And I'm like, how did this person like get into my life, get into my mind and like write this song? But not even from a music standpoint, like there's like a deeper level of love that comes when somebody opens up to you and exposes something that they're afraid of, or that like a brokenness or something like that, that just like, there really is so much beauty in that. And I just think it's so funny that we just constantly go through the same cycles of, oh no, I can't share that, I can't share that, when it's like that's what leads to the deepest connection and the best relationships. And I have to remind myself of that so often. But I'm so grateful for people that do that, and for a God that reminds me of like, I love every part of you, and like put that on display so often. Like if you look at the people that Jesus was spending his time with when he was on earth, and if you look at the people he called to be his disciples, like they weren't like theologians or like these highly educated, like the fishermen and tax collectors and all these people with a past and with backgrounds, and who made mistakes. And he was not looking for perfect people, but just people who are willing. And I think that to me is something that I'm learning, is like, oh, the Lord's not asking for me to be perfect. He just wants me to be willing. Okay. That makes this so much easier.
And like we called Jesus the way. And the way was just like, the way was that moment, right? Or the moments when he sacrificed for us, when he gave his brokenness, right? So maybe that's a way for us. We give that. The way is being around people and serving and loving and giving and being around the broken people, which are all of us.
Yep.
But he actually wanted to be around the people who weren't afraid to say they were broken. The people he couldn't handle were the people who were like, we're not broken. We're not broken. See, we're doing everything right. Look at all these laws. Like they couldn't see their brokenness and they couldn't share their brokenness. And I think that's the only type of person he can't work with, is like, if you can't show me that, I can't help.
Right. Because he's not going to force his way, you know? And I think that was something that changed my understanding of and experience with and relationship to the atonement of Jesus Christ, was when I was at a point where I admitted that I needed it so desperately and felt the power of that sacrifice and of what he did. Like, it's one thing to read about it and even like to try to wrap your brain around it. Like, it's so hard, but like it is really a beautiful thing. But when you experience the benefit and you experience the power in that, for me, that came from admitting that I was in need of it. And it came from like seeking it out and allowing that power to heal and to cleanse me. Like, that was another moment that completely changed my relationship with God and my understanding of my dependency on him and my need for him. Because I'm like, oh, whoa, like me being broken or needing him is not a bad thing. It's designed that way. Like, that's the whole point, is that I need him. And what a beautiful, that's actually so beautiful that I get to be in relationship with him and learn and grow and yes, make mistakes, but also that those mistakes aren't defining my identity. Like, and he knows that. And he's been reminding me of that every single day. And so that admitting my brokenness and going to the Lord just allowed me to experience the power of the atonement in a way that completely shifted my relationship, not to just the atonement, but to Jesus.
Yeah. I'm thinking about how I felt this was coming, and it did, which I love that this episode is like a literal example of using your voice, an actual voice to sing and to touch and to bless.
Yeah.
And then all the patterns, like as you shared that whole story, like facing our fear and not being afraid if you don't have all the answers, to still step up and to share and to like bring what you have when you have it and let God take it from that place. And I think about, again, that college girl and obviously so many other women, right? Where we face this over and over every time we try to grow, or God tells us we're ready to grow, that it's met with fear. It's something that feels outside of our comfort zone. The harder it is, probably the more impact for good and for blessing other people's lives. Little fear helps a little. And the big fear that you get through helps a lot and shines a bright light, because I don't know, maybe Jesus is just shining right through you. But such a beautiful, like thinking of Jesus as the way and how he did it. And then thinking of your story as like, this is a way that points to him and how you've lived in your story, but there's a pattern there too. And don't be afraid, girls. If you've got something, girls, ladies, women, sisters, that feels so scary right now and feels like something you haven't even chosen, or that, wow, this was not in my plan, but you feel like is coming from God, like, go after that thing.
Yeah. That, a huge amen to that, and like louder for the people in the back. But something that I'm realizing is, even just in what we're talking about of like the brokenness or the fear of like not being perfect or not having all the answers, or what I recognize exactly what you're saying of like the thing that you're the most afraid of. And also, at least what's been true in my life is some of my biggest insecurities. The combination of those two things oftentimes reveals what God's purpose for my life is in a roundabout way.
Do
Because
explain that.
I feel like if there's something that I'm so afraid of and I have so much fear of, just based off of if I'm just looking at my life so far, like what I was saying before, so many of the most beautiful moments of my life have been on the other side of fear. And the scarier it is, I'm like, oh, there's something on the other side of that, like, regardless of impact, that I need, or that
Yeah.
like is going to be so crucial for my development. But also, as much as I like believe in God and in Jesus and the power of that, I also believe that there is an enemy and that there's a power that's trying to stop you from that. And the devil would not come like what's the saying of like thieves aren't going to rob an empty store. Like if the devil is coming, if you're having these crazy insecurities about something, like I oftentimes have an insecurity about my voice specifically, and so much comparison. I struggle with that, or imposter syndrome, or about a big thing for me is I have such a hard time exposing parts of myself that I don't love or that feel broken. And I feel like what the Lord is doing with me right now is asking me to write about all those things. And I'm like, hello, what do you mean? Like, this is like one of my biggest fears and biggest insecurities to be on display. And I just have this little voice in my head that's like, you're not good enough, you don't know enough, your voice isn't good enough, and like all these insecurities that are coming up. But when I'm looking at it, I can look at it in two lenses: the lens of fear, which I feel like is what the enemy wants me to do, or a lens of love, which is God. He is love. And so if I'm looking at it through a loving lens, it's like, yes, I'm afraid of this thing, but there's something on the other side of that that's going to be maybe beautiful for other people, but so beautiful for me too, in my relationship with the Lord. And if the Lord's calling me to this, it doesn't matter if I'm enough. It doesn't matter if I have all the answers. It doesn't matter all these things, because He is enough. He is worthy. He is all of these things, and will, like, I just have had enough experience and belief that He'll make up the difference for me. And so I'm trying to shift my brain to this. I'm not perfect at this all the time, but it's almost exciting sometimes when I'm like, okay, I have a fear and an insecurity. I'm like, the devil's afraid of this. So like I'm gonna run after this because I feel like this is what the Lord wants me to be doing. But specifically with me right now, it's like the Lord's like, I want you to be writing your prayers. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm like exposing everything in my prayers to you, Lord, this is how you want me to be writing and what you want me to be saying, and like sharing the like deepest, most intimate and kind of, I mean, very vulnerable, but kind of scary things that I'm just feeling comfortable enough to say with the Lord. And I'm like, you want me to put this on display on a public platform? Um, but I'm also learning that, again, that vulnerability is the gateway to connection, and that it is not good for man to be alone. And we are not alone. Like, there's so many other people that are feeling the same thing and need to know that they're not alone in that, just in the same way that I've needed that. And so if I can be a vessel and be willing to allow the Lord to use me, even though I'm like, this is so scary, Lord, I don't want people to see or hear what I'm wrestling with or what I'm praying about. Um, yeah, like that to me is such a beautiful gift, because I've experienced that of like somebody being vulnerable and sharing something and it impacting me so much. And so I'm like, whatever your insecurity is or your fear is, that probably is an indication of maybe something that the Lord is calling you to do.
I love that. I think a lot of women are going to have breakthroughs hearing that. Being like, ooh, run to, not from.
Yes. Yes.
Well, now you've said it publicly that that's what you're going to do. I'm going to be checking up on you and
Okay.
being like, okay, Ashley, I'm cheering you on.
Well,
Bring
that
it, girl.
I I mentioned this off air a little bit, but timing of this episode, I know God has a sense of humor sometimes, because I'm just in the middle of a lot of roadblocks right now with trying to, there's just a lot of resistance, like internally and externally, like, yes, fear and insecurity, but a lot of things that are out of my control as I'm trying to just share and put out music and just things that I'm feeling led to do. And so I'm just in such a deep season of like learning to trust the Lord, and not only just trust the Lord, but like surrender in a way that I think to a level that I haven't had to before, or haven't done before, just because, yeah, it's hard when there are things out of your control that you're like, okay, Lord, I literally can't do anything, so I just have to trust that, like you say, all things will work together for my good. And I was reading, there's a scripture in Exodus, it's Exodus 14:14, where it says, the Lord will fight your battles for you. All you need to do is be still. And I'm like, I was just reading that in a moment where I was like making all these plans of everything that I was going to do. And like, and I just had this moment of like, oh, the Lord's asking me to surrender. Like, he's like, I know what's on your heart. I know what you're trying to do. I also know what I called you to do. I know it feels contradictory right now that I called you to do this, and there's roadblocks that you can't do it, but you have to trust that I'm fighting your battles for you, and that we're doing this in my way and on my timeline. And that is somebody that's like, okay, once I have my sights set on something, I'm going to go do it and get it done. It's been so hard, but also just is reminding me even like why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like, yes, I'm putting out music and I love to do this, but like my identity isn't in my music. It's in my identity as a daughter and as a child of God. And like ultimately everything points back to that. And so the Lord is so quick to remind me when my identity starts to like shift into something else of like, oh, I'm putting this music out. Okay, my identity is in if this is successful or if people like it or if this gets done. He's like, wait, let's come back over here. We're going to do this in my way because you're mine and you're mine first and foremost. And like anything and everything else can be taken away, but like that is an eternal truth. And so I'm just in a season of surrendering to the Lord, but please keep checking in on me and making sure that I'm
I will.
still doing it.
I will. And I mean, what's on the other side, no doubt is for you, but no doubt is for other people listening in right now. So if you're too afraid to do it for you, do it for them and for what's
Yes.
going to come from it. And where can everyone find you so they can be following on your journey, the vulnerable journey that you are sharing that you don't want to share, that you do want to share?
Buckle up, guys. So just my socials, it's just at Ashley Hess Music, and then my website, ashleyhessmusic.com. Pretty simple, straightforward. Yeah.
We're going to put it in the show notes and the song in the show notes. And I'm going to put both versions, the one with Maverick City Music and the one that you
King will
wrote. There's
come.
probably a few. I mean, just like,
Yeah.
just really impactful stuff. And so thank you for sharing it and taking all of those scary, risky steps, because it's like, it's changing the world for good.
Well, thank you for having me. And thank you for taking the scary and risky steps of having a podcast, just giving people the opportunity to share their story, because that is such a gift. So thank you.
You bet. So fun to have you on. I'm leaving this conversation reminded that God doesn't need polish, performance, or perfection. He needs our honesty. And when we share that with others, community comes rushing in. If you haven't yet listened to Ashley's song called Yet, go listen today. Let it meet you where you are. And it would mean the world if you went and left a quick review, even just the stars, for the podcast on Apple. It helps more women find these conversations. I'm so grateful every single time you take a minute to do it. Come chat with me over on Instagram at The Lizzy Jensen Show and tell me what stood out. Love you, friends.